Good morning. Welcome to this class. This is topic 4, Industrial Revolution. In this topic, you should be able to state the characteristics of the Industrial Revolution. You should also be able to state the problems that workers experienced during the Industrial Revolution. You should also be able to outline the impacts of the Industrial Revolution. Now let's look what is the meaning of Industrial Revolution and the phases of the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution is a technological was a period of significant economic, technological, and social change that began in the 18th century and continued up to the 19th century. It originated from the Great Britain, so Britain was the first country to be industrialized and later proceeded to other parts of Europe and then the world. That's the rest of the other continents now. The Africa, Asian, yeah. Then the Industrial Revolution is generally divided into 3 main phases. The first industrial phase of the 1970 to 1840, the second industrial phase of 1840 to 1900, and the third industrial phase of 1960 to the world today. Those were the 3 phases of industrialization. We look at the characteristics of the industrialization. This is basically what was Industrial Revolution in Europe, characterized by, there was the use of machines to replace the human labor and also the animal labor. People started using machines to replace the human labor. They could have larger plantations because humans could get tired and they couldn't complete their work at time. So they decided to use the machine, which could be cheap and easier and also faster. Then there was also the use of steam power as a source of energy to replace water, winds, and animal power. There was also the increased exploitation to use coal, iron, and steel. Then there was also the rise of factory system instead of the cottage industry. They could now take substances to the industries instead of doing them at home, which could process their goods of high quality. Then there was also the development of better forms of transport, such as the use of the air transport, by use of an aeroplane, then the railways by use of a train, then water transport, you can travel by a ship or even a ferry from one area to another. Then the roads, use of main roads, the tarmacked roads, that's the modern roads. Then there was also the improved standards and an increase in human population who required more manufactured goods. Because due to industrialization, the population now became high, and they needed some machine which could produce goods of high quality and also more goods which human couldn't produce. Then the production of goods on large scale. Yeah, people started having plantation to produce goods on large scale because before industrialization, they only measured with a small scale plantation. Then there was also the development of science and application of scientific knowledge in products. Then there was also development of trade as manufactured goods were sold locally and abroad. When the goods were now manufactured or processed, there was large or even the surplus was high. Then they sought out how to go and search for markets where they could sell their goods. Then there was also the rise of modern capitalism, provide enough wealth, which was then invented back into the industry. This capitalism rose during the Industrial Revolution, whereby it states that one should own his own property, like it can't be the communist communist societies whereby the property is owned by a community. Then there was also the growth of trade movements to cater for rights of the industrial workers. We'll look at the rights of the industrial workers. They had their own rights for them to prevent them from being misused, or even their employees being never for their employees not to pay them a low wage or even enslave them. Then look at the problems experienced by workers during the Industrial Revolution. There were several problems that workers experienced during Industrial Revolution. The first one, they were paid low wages or even the salaries. Their employees could give them low salaries, which now they had to create their own trade or even movements for them to cater for their rights to prevent the employees from mistreating them. Then they worked for long hours. They could work for long hours with low salaries or low wages, which angered the people. They were exposed to accidents. They had no insurance to cater for them. Then accident victims were laid off without compensation. Even if someone could be injured by a machine, they were not compensated on, or even their bills were not catered by their employees. They were all left alone. This led to them having their own rights, forming their own trade unions for them to fight for their own rights, which could help them for their employees not to mistreat or rather enslave them. Then there was also inadequate housing, made them to live in slums. Yeah, this led to poor sanitation because industries are mostly measured in urban areas. Then this led them to moving from the rural areas to urban areas. Then this led to creating of slums in the urban areas. Hence, due to poor wages, they could only live or even afford to live in slums. This led to a larger number of slums in towns. Then they suffered from diseases due to poor sanitation or pollution. In the slums, the sanitation is very low. They could face challenges such as water pollution, air pollution, which led them having diseases such as cholera and even the malaria, which are mostly in polluted areas. Then we look at the effects of the Industrial Revolution in Europe, the effects or even the challenges of industrialization in Europe. What are some of the challenges what we are going to study? One, it led to the rural-urban migration. This is because most of the industries were created in the urban areas, hence people were to move from rural to urban areas to seek for jobs. Then it led to rise in standards of living. Then there was also replacement of human labor with the use of machines. This led to unemployment of many people because many people before the industrialization, they could only be employed and the human labor was more used. This led now to unemployment of people. Then it stimulated expansion of factories instead of the cottage industries, the industries at home. Then it encouraged the development of transport and communication system. For example, the roads. Yeah, modern roads were created such as modern roads were created. There was also modern forms of transportation and even communication, the use of the mobile phones. Then the Industrial Revolution in Europe stimulated local and international trade. They began to trade. you can market substances online because this industrialization led to improved communication. So message could be passed from one area to another through the mobile phones, the televisions, and all that. Then Industrial Revolution promoted development of labor, which the Industrial Revolution led to exploitation of labor because many people could not be employed, and mostly machines could be used in their work. That's the end of the today's class. Thank you.